Alrighty then.
Hello.
He's out in the
It's already
sun.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm up on the roof.
Wow. Looks like a glorious day.
Yeah, there's not a chemtrail in the sky. Not a single one.
Fantastic.
Beautiful thing. That makes 3 days in a row now.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Ever since I watched that video with Patrick, I think it's been clear skies.
They must have run out of chems. Got to
Well,
order
I
some
stopped
more
dwelling on it.
from China.
Yeah, but I stopped dwelling on it.
You stop watching that? You stop gloating on it? Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, what can you do? What can we do? So there's no point in dwelling and getting all in a tizzy about all this stuff. It's the whole thing about the serenity, isn't it? You know, accept the things we can't change.
Right. So I came up here on the roof to feed my bees and saw a big pile of garbage in the parking lot. So I went over there and started cleaning it up. But I had to take a break. So much trash.
Right.
I filled a couple of large garbage bags and threw them into the dumpster, but I got at least 2 or 3 more to fill before the pile is gone. It's just incredible how much garbage is over there from the wind.
Yeah, it's very windy here as well, and snowing in Northern Europe, and it's still warm here. We've still got like 16 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in your money. 70, something like that. It's quite warm.
Yeah, it's about 70 right now, I think.
Yeah, and it rains a little bit now and again, but otherwise it's nice big puffy white clouds, sunshine beaming through, silver linings, and it's all good. And so you got anything particular you want to talk about?
I guess the freshest thing on my mind is how I kind of snapped out of my funk after watching the video with you and Patrick.
Snapped out of your what?
Funk that I was stuck in. I was like stuck in the negativity.
Right. Okay.
And it was really heavy on me. And after watching that video, I just kind of reassessed everything, and I felt so much of relief and kind of like weight off my shoulders almost.
Ah, so what part of it did you find emancipating?
Well, I kind of lost focus on creating our own future, creating our reality.
Yeah.
And I started focusing on all this doom and gloom and trying to save the world, and forgot about my reality a little bit.
Yeah. And this is what can happen when we slip down the rabbit hole. We get too embroiled in it all. What's starting to happen now is, Mario, that we're all meeting this realization at this particular point in time that this incessant YouTube isn't good for us. Involvement in the internet isn't good for us unless it's a necessity. We don't need to know any more information. We really don't. Because what I've come to conclude is, with all the information that I gather up, if you open your ears, your eyes, and your heart, then all the information is going to come to you. If you are of the disposition whereby you are receptive, you listen, you really see, and you think about the information, it's all there. And so all the information now that I have been looking with intellectuals, you know, speaking on YouTube, it can be interesting as a pastime, and it's something to do in the evening time if, like me, you're alone. But definitely in the daytime, I don't have anything to do with that, because I go out and live my life. Because when you look at the world and when you feel the world, your mind will it will give you all the answers. And I noticed a very, very profound difference to me today. I was expecting Guy to call me because he promised that he was going to work all day on the site, and he never called at all. So yeah. I waited in until 1:30, And I was, flitting around the site and watching a few videos and that, keeping myself occupied, and got an internal dialogue which is, related to things and a certain bit of negativity. And then I thought, well, fuck it, I'm going to go down to the beach. And as soon as I got down to the beach, my mind opened up and I started to think about beautiful philosophy and just much broader concepts of what it is to be. And it's kind of like, well, how many times do I need this realization that is where it's happening? It's happening in nature and it's happening in your mind. It's not happening on YouTube, and it's not happening with all this involvement with what everybody's saying, because it doesn't matter where you look. You can look high and low. You're always going to find a contradiction to whatever it is you're saying. And so if you're looking for truth, forget about that. It's your truth. So look for it inside. Look for it out in the natural world. And so, as I say, there are more and more of us. We're deciding that we're going to be spending more time in the natural world, and we're going to be doing more stuff, and we're going to be living, and we're going to be putting the knowledge that we've learned via our journey down the rabbit hole into practice, in relationships and in increasing the depth of our spirituality and our ascension.
That sounds really good. And I agree about picking up on information, because as I've gotten older, can you see the?
Oh wow, yeah.
As I've gotten older, I've learned things in life. I can remember back to when I've had that thought in my mind just coming from nowhere, and have the realization that came from the ether, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
So I've had that proven to me more than once in my life.
And that's the thing about it, you see, because if we don't forget that, if we don't remain short-sighted, and we keep drawn back to the same old seeking of information, or just the addiction of it, really, just sitting down in front of it, and because we've done it for so long, then what we have to realize is that our minds, they've created certain programs, certain requirements, and there's a certain addiction there. There's an addiction for me in that I would much rather listen to people speak than read a book. When I start reading text, when someone sends me some text now and again, I find it immensely boring. Whereas before, I never used to.
I learn more from audio than from reading, unless I'm completely entranced by the information. Then I just soak it right up, no matter what.
Yeah, it's a curious thing, because Paul said he started to do more reading these days. And what the reading has done for him, it's opened up his imagination. Because in a book, you have to think about whatever they're depicting. The literature is giving you information, and out of the literature, then you have to build the reality. But when you are looking at people on a video, there's so much more to distract you. You look at the mannerisms, you look at the face, you look at the appearance, you look at where they are, and you've got all this stuff going on. And because you are only listening, then you can be drinking a cup of tea, you can be fidgeting around and doing this and that. And so you're not concentrating entirely. Whereas when you're reading the book, if you don't concentrate entirely, then you just don't grasp it.
It's like you're not totally engaged. You're not totally engaged in it, so it's not gonna be the same experience.
No, that's right. And see, what literature does, or a decent book, it draws you in, and you are there, aren't you? You're sharing the experience with the author.
And I feel that everybody who reads a book actually gets a little bit of a different story, because they're creating part of that story in their mind. So the book is different for everybody.
Yes, dependent on the level of your imagination, how well you can depict what it is that's being spoken in the literature. And I think this pertains to experience, because obviously the more you've experienced, the more embellished your mind is. And so the more information that you can call upon. And so therefore you can paint a greater picture. You've got a greater expanse of colors for your easel, so to speak.
Right. But to know some things, unless you're just going to have it down to your brain somehow.
Yeah.
You have to live your life. You have to do things to learn things, and people have to make mistakes to learn from them. And if you've never made a mistake, I don't think you've never really lived.
Well, of course, yeah, we all have kind of made mistakes, and if we've addressed them correctly, and if we've assessed them, then we will grow from them. If we don't, then we won't, and as simple as that. And so there's going to be quite a few changes going on around this site now. As I've said to you guys, leaving, and he may have left already, having made another promise that he never kept. And I'm not apportioning blame to him, because it's the way he's made up, it's his psyche, and he struggles with his psyche. His intention is very honorable and very good, but there's certain facets of his psyche that he struggles with. And so we have to realize this about people, and we have to find a level of acceptance. And so I found a level of acceptance that I've got to go this alone as far as the technical aspect of it is concerned. But due to my level of technical ability being very low, then this site currently is going to be too much for me, because it isn't operating properly. And there's always something that just all of a sudden makes manifest. It doesn't work anymore, or has changed. And it really is quite bewildering. And so I don't like to be embroiled in this level of technology. You know how I hate numbers. And so therefore, what I'm doing is I'm looking at Steemit. I've just opened an account with Steemit. I'll be putting some videos over onto that platform over this next few days and see how it works. And hopefully we'll have two brand new platforms. We won't be using Skype anymore. We'll be using Zoom, which is vastly more superior. And we'll be using a simple platform for the videos, which is, incidentally, it's already a multimedia platform. And so it should have forum facility and this, that, and the other. I've not looked into it that much. I was going to do that later, but I'm hoping it's going to have that. And in which case, then, all of our problems are over, because people can communicate in forums. They can upload videos, either sending them to me, more probable. But we're going to work this out, because what I want to create is everybody that's got Zoom. It's free, it's dead easy to use and to set up. Once we've all got that facility, then there's no issues with a recording package, because the recording packages are notoriously very, very poor. And so...
Wow. Hold on, we got a military helicopter going by.
Yeah.
Right over the top of me.
Yeah, and so... I'm hoping that it's all going to be coming together very, very nicely, and we're going to be standardizing what we do, and we're all going to have the same facility, save for uploading onto my account at Steemit. I would like the facility whereby our members could upload, and if that is a possibility, wouldn't that be brilliant? If we could all be members of one particular site. But I don't know whether that's something that is actually available at this moment in time. But if it isn't, then there's a particular package that all the members can send me their video recordings. So they record the video Skype conversation, and then it is saved within Zoom, and then you can send it by a package called Sprend. Sprend. It's really, really simple. You click on Sprend, and all of a sudden it comes up with one page, and it's got your email. It says email address you want to send the video to, paste the URL, and then it's gone. And it is fantastic. So people can paste me those URLs, and then I'll just bang them on Steemit.
Have you looked into any other website base like that you could try to set up that are more simple to work with, maybe? or is there even, because my girlfriend said that there should be some kind of a website out there that it's really easy to work with to set up and, put our information in there and get it going.
Yes, well, Paul, he's looked into what sort of basic websites are available, and he's under the impression that it should be much more simple. But Guy started to build this one from scratch, and he built it on something called what the fuck? I can't remember what it's called now, but it's a particular package, and people have to have some sort of an experience with it, with writing web pages. WordPress is what it is, and it's very, very complicated.
Sounds hard.
It's very ambiguous, and what happens is when you read the text in how to do stuff, because there's pages upon pages upon pages behind the scenes of how you write the website and how you want it to appear, but it's very ambiguous, and so when you think you are creating something, it turns out that you're not, and all this sort of thing. So I don't want to get involved in that. I don't want to become a computer freaking web page builder. I want my life to be simple, and I want everybody to have a facility which is simple to them too. Otherwise, it's just not going to work, because too many people, such as myself, are going to fall down with technical issues. Even just to get the people to put up their profile, to put their pictures up, copy and paste a couple of pictures, nobody's doing it. And so I've sent out that message that I'm going to be deleting all the accounts that don't have a full profile, primarily because I think lots of them are dead anyway. People came initially to have a look and then didn't think it was for them. And in view of all the complications that we've had about it, then I can't blame them. But there's some that have, started on their profile, but it really isn't that difficult. It is a very simple, and Guy even made a video how to do it. And so if people can't be bothered to do that, then they're not going to be bothered to be involved in the level that we want. And so therefore I don't think there's any point in them being here.
Well, I'm not very good with computers, but I went in there and I set up mine. The only problem I had was it wouldn't let me put my picture in with my phone. I had to log in with a different phone and put the picture in.
Yeah.
Other than that, I thought it was easy.
Yeah. And so there you go.
Self-explanatory.
If you see what this site is actually doing, it's weeding out all the ones that are not serious. And so it's a good thing in the end. Guy says, don't delete the people because we want to, build up the membership and everything. And I say, well, what's the point in having all these members if they're dormant? I mean, the page is blank. It doesn't look like there's any life there because there isn't. And so there's no point in kidding ourselves. And I want to know exactly who the members are. And I want a personal relationship with every single one. And also want the members to have a relationship with each other. And if they're not prepared to do that, then this site evidently isn't for them. But on the positive side, we have a very beautiful collection of members, about a dozen, I think we've got, that are communicating with each other. And it's starting off really, really fine. And there's a lot of potential to it.
So far, I've just seen good come out of this. So
yeah,
other than this Phoenix character.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was speaking to Chris today. Early on, he and I had a beautiful conversation. It really was flowing and it was great. And we was talking about lots of current things and, how we're stepping away from YouTube and all that and getting back involved with the natural world and people. And we spoke about this disturbed guy. He's a very disturbed individual. And he's just been writing to everybody and just saying just ridiculous, nonsensical things. And so, but what he's done is, you see, he's made me look at the security levels of what I'm doing. And so I've vastly increased my security. I'm changing platforms in many respects. And so what's going to come out of it is a very tightly knitted community, because we're all bonding together. We're all conveying what he's been saying, and Guy's really struggling with it at the moment because he's taken it really bad because because he's been building the website. He seems to think that he's been attacked from quite a lot of people, and he's got great concerns about that, and so he wants to step back from it. But as far as we're concerned, then it's drawn us together, and it's gave us certain realizations about weirdos out there, and we can all take security on board with our own stuff, because this cyber world is a curious place, and you get curious people. So just make sure all your passwords are quite tight, and you've not got all your personal stuff out there, because this guy, he's found absolutely everything he possibly could on everybody he has pursued, and he puts night and day into it, just like a sicko stalker.
I've got protection on my identity already, so if he even tries to mess with me, they're just going to arrest him. I've already had people try to steal my identity several times, and some of them are still in jail.
Right. Well,
if he's listening, I say go right ahead and try it, buddy.
Yeah. And so anyway, it's been interesting, and upon reflection, you see, these things, these negative energies, of course, they're going to be attracted to positive energy. And what we're doing is a beautiful thing. And yet people, they don't want to accept that, because they don't understand the level of conversation that we are engaged with. They're afraid of our community and our secrecy, our private site, because they don't want everyone to see. And Aaron's always trying to be closed down people's comments and this, that, and the other. And so it just shows what's out there and what you have to protect yourself against. And so I'm almost at the point now whereby I'm going to do a personal vetting on anybody that's coming into the site, because the site, the people involved so far, we're so tight. We really are getting on, fabulously, and it's beautiful. All the relationships are beautiful. I don't want anybody, any stranger coming in and throwing a spanner in the works and starting hearsay and this, that, and the other, and bad mouthing or lying about us outside. And so I think people are going to come via high recommendation or serious vetting, just like any other club would, really.
Yeah, and that makes me think about those weird comments that I was getting from that person that kept jumping websites, or whatever you call it, or names, and they were talking about you and Rachel. Remember, I sent you some screenshots.
Yeah, that I think that's part and parcel of the same person, or maybe there's been a few of them at some stage, because when I announced that I'm releasing Barabbas and I'm releasing all the serpents from the snake pit and all this sort of thing, quite a few of them took it personally. And so there was a bit of a flurry of attempts to attack the site and me and this, that, and the other. But most of them have subsided now. And the only one that I can see is persistent is the Phoenix guy, which is a very disturbed character. But I don't think anybody has to, feel threatened.
No, I don't think so either. I just think, like you said, just be cautious, like you should be anyways.
Yeah. And so we're moving forward now. We are getting to know each other more and more. We're starting to converse more and more. And if I can get it working much more efficiently and simply, then it's going to be a pleasure instead of a disappointment, because Skype has just been so disappointing for so many people for so long. And it really is high time that we all just completely get rid of that pain in the ass.
Well, yeah, it's really disturbing looking at the way that they destroy your videos, audio, and the picture, and it's like they're trying to just slaughter what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's it's like you really have to question what is going on here. And so anyway, they've served the purpose, because now we won't ever have that issue again, because this Zoom seems to be working far more efficiently. And even though you broke up one or two times, well, you're outside, you're away from the Wi-Fi. You know, you're not in the room, and so I think if you were in the room, then it would be perfect. And so yeah, it's all good so far.
Yeah, you haven't broke up once.
Yeah, it's remarkable, and the clarity. And so I'm going to be doing a short video once I've learned how to navigate this Zoom, and I'll be putting that up, and so people can see actually how to get on it. And so if everybody downloads it, it takes about 30 seconds to download. You put your email in and your password. That's all the information they want. They don't want all your secret details and all this.
Yeah, Aaron, if I can figure it out, if I can figure, I think anybody could probably figure it out.
Yeah, well, there you go. And so onwards and upwards as far as that's concerned then. And so in relation to videos that I produce, is there anything in particular that you've enjoyed? What I want to do is I want to see if I can get people to communicate about what they want from the site, who they want me to speak to. Does anybody else want to approach anybody else and speak to them? You know, and go on.
I just wanted to maybe hear about people's life experiences and, you know, how they see this reality.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want too. And so this is the beautiful thing about it. We're on the same plane. What I was speaking to Chris about, I was saying, look, I just want to hear about the prominent and profound experiences that people have had in their lives, like you have told about yourself, and you know, I've told about myself. Well, let's not hold back. Let's not be afraid of divulging information. Let's not be protecting this stupid ego because we're going to be embarrassed about things that we've done and mistakes that we've made. Look, we're all human beings on this site. Lots of people out there, they're not human beings.
Yeah, probably not.
I'm convinced about that. But if we engage in a very personal level like that, telling our stories, then of course we get to know one another better. We get to bond with one another better. We have a high level of respect for one another because of the divulging of certain facets of their life which maybe they've kept buried for so long. And at the end of the day, it's like the whole Freudian thing, you see, the talking therapy. If you talk about it, then you have a certain catharsism whereby you emancipate yourself from the weight of that buried information. And so it's a win-win situation.
I agree. And hearing you talking with Sarah was incredible. Just how much me and her have in common, like just throughout the whole thing. I mean, it's I should have been taking notes, but it's like it just kept blowing my mind hearing everything she was saying.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about that conversation and Sarah is that, you know, she's a seer and she sees us all as the children that we are, and this is something that I've really tried to convey to my viewers for a long time. And like I stated, the child is father to the man or mother to the woman, because we never lose the child. The child is always here. And invariably, the child is hurt. A hurt child, there's always going to be some stage in our lives as children, unless we've had the perfect childhood, whereby we've had times in our life which have affected us, and they are still with us today, only we won't recognize where they're coming from. We won't recognize the child. We don't want to embrace the child because we think that's childish and stupid, and we're told not to do it. We're told that we've got to grow up and lose our imagination and stop fantasizing and dreaming and all these beautiful things that the free mind does. That of a child.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind talking about my childhood. I can remember a lot of my childhood.
Yeah, and
I
so
could remember I could from really far back. Like my first memories are when I was being carried around in a baby carriage, and then my parents would cover me in a blanket. I mean, it's just ridiculous how much I can remember.
yeah, and so something
But
like that. It would be nice to talk about in a video entirely on its own, starting from your earliest memories and all that sort of thing. And it would be beautiful to
yeah,
hear all different people's recollections, and I'll do mine, my earliest memories, and how I managed with stuff and how I feel about the things that happen to me now. Because, like Sarah said, she can see the child in us because we display it so overtly, the things that have affected us. And anybody with a reasonable depth in psychology can see this. And this is the whole thing that we all can see about Platypus Phoenix. He's displaying his very, very traumatized childhood, only he's in such
yeah,
great denial about it. And so, he seriously needs therapy. And so if we have a mind to do this amongst ourselves, then I'm sure it'll be fun. It will be very interesting. And there's going to be lots that we can learn and relate to. And so it's all going to be very, very positive.
yeah. It's so far it's been pretty positive. I mean, I kind of missed the old website because I used to watch the videos and rewatch some of the videos, and I don't think I've watched, even got a chance to watch every one. But this is okay. This is a good replacement.
Yes, well, you see, I look at that and I think, well, what have I lost there? And I haven't lost anything. First and foremost, obviously,
No,
because I said all those words, and so all those words derived out of me, so I know all that information. But you see, lots of the stuff I said 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and the person that said those words isn't the person that is sitting before you now. We change as people
right.
on a daily basis. And so when you acquire such a vast amount of information, of course, you are going to be growing in many regions. And so now I can see how I have grown, and I can see how I devolved at certain stages on my journey, because I had to deal with a whole array of what it is to be a human being. With all the facets, and to learn about the psyche of the general public out there is a very strange arena to be in. And if you are in the public domain, then I think ultimately you will end up very bitter, because you will just never reach these people. They will never stop attacking you. They'll never stop coming out with their absolute ridiculous comments, because they don't know anything about themselves or this world. And so I decided, and it's my growth, that I want to detach myself from that and have a small community of people that don't do that. We're too grown to do that. And if we don't agree, well, it doesn't matter about not agreeing or agreeing, because you see, all we're doing is we're just speaking, we're just projecting, because that's all we can do, really. We can only give an opinion from the information which we have gathered, whether it's via our personal experience or whether it's via the acquisition of knowledge through reading and studying. And so, if you say something, well, that derives out of you. And I'm the last person who's going to say, oh, I don't agree with that. Who gives a fuck? What does it matter if you don't agree? All this is, it's a stupid ego kicking in. Oh, that's not the same information as I've got. Well, none of us have the same information. Get a hold of yourselves. And so whatever
Right.
anybody displays, it's true to them. And so that's what it's about. It's just about listening to different people's stories. It's not about
And I like,
finding truth, Mario, because there is no truth outside of
yeah,
yourself.
that was just a distraction, I think, from the reality that we're supposed to be looking at.
What was the
That's the way I
distraction,
found
right?
it. All the doom and gloom that's out there that they're sticking in our face.
Yeah. And so what we, might want to consider is appropriate for us at our personal stage in the development. And this is what we're all coming to, within this community. It's that we don't need to have this incessant bombardment of I don't agree with that and your opinion's wrong and all that nonsense. You just stop communicating with the people who don't have ears for it, and you save that pleasure for indulging in the community to people who do respect and appreciate what you're saying. And so it's a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit like anything really. It's a bit like golf. If you like golf, then there's a time and a place for golf, and it's on the golf course with your
Right.
golfing mates. Because if you try and play golf anywhere else, people are going to go, oh, careful, you don't put that ball near me, or well, my kids are over there, or, if you go and you're whacking a few balls on a playing field or something, oh, my dog's over there, all this. And so I think that's what it is about now. It's about discovering what we want and where is the best playing field for us to play within.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm sure we're all grown up enough to, read through the bad people, but, it's just a distraction. Once again, it's just distracting us from what we should be focusing on.
Yeah, that's it, distraction. And I think the whole YouTube thing, for the better part, is a distraction, because it's our time of life now. And with the level of study that we've all done, we don't need it anymore. It is just a distraction from the self. And if you sit in front of the computer, like I do, every single night, and I don't mind doing it at night, and I watch a lot of nature stuff and space stuff. And so it's good stuff, it's nurturing stuff when you watch beautiful nature programs like The Natural World and all this sort of thing. And it gives me a greater vigor to want to get involved in it on a personal level. And so if we're very selective about the things we watch, then it's all good. But if we're just incessantly going around and we're being manipulated via pop-ups, and we watch one video and then a pop-up comes up and we'll click on that video and then we click on another video, what we'll find at the end of the night is that all we've done is we've been manipulated by the computer, and the computer has guided us into the things that we've been privy to watch. What we really need to do is to sit down in front of the computer and ask ourselves, what is it that I want to extract from the internet tonight? That way you're making the personal choice and you're not being beguiled and manipulated.
Well, I'm like you as far as watching. I like to watch nature shows and everything. I think National Geographic, and when I was watching television, Animal Planet was good at one point at showing a lot of nature, but then they started turning and they started showing a lot of stuff that had nothing to do with nature, and that was about the time that I stopped watching television. I wouldn't even allow television in this house.
Yeah,
I won't allow it.
And I think that's a step in the right direction. And I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of us, we don't watch any television. I haven't watched television in 12 years. And I know lots of other people haven't. It's completely superfluous for our personal development.
I think it's just full of distractions. So it's not even worth my time.
Yeah. And so the whole thing about this world then, about this matrix, if you want to get really philosophical about it, it's 1,000,001 ways to distract you from learning about what you really are. And we have to fight against this very often. We have to be very, very aware that there are going to be many, many people trying to distract us. And just like the recent troll, trying his best to distract us from discovering that which is beautiful. And some of the weaker ones, they've been distracted because there's people that used to communicate with me don't communicate with me anymore. And so they've swallowed the information. They're starting to feel afraid and intimidated of, is it really going to be a cult? Or they're going to be asking me to reveal things about me. I don't want to reveal things about me. I just want to learn from other people. Well, okay, you're not ready for this then, because this is the
Let me interject for a second. Where did they get the idea that it's a cult? Because a cult is like worshiping like a thing, isn't it? And
yes, and it's following without thinking, and you see what they don't realize is that they are all in cults. They're in cults with their Facebook. Facebook's a cult. They're in cult with whatever religion. They're in cult with their football team, because it's all propaganda that's coming out. It's all things that they absolutely believe, and it's all things that move them so emotionally. And if anybody says something about their team, then they're prepared to blood the other person up, and all this ridiculous stuff. And so they're all in cults, only they don't even know it. But just because they've heard somebody once mention something about this guy called Jim Jones, who had a little community, and it was tightly knit, and anybody that's going to have a community which is quite closed to the general public, then that's a cult. And because they don't know what a cult means, first of all, the chances are they've never ever looked it up on the dictionary. And so it's just all ridiculous. It's absolutely pathetic. And so I just want to close the doors on them all, really, and just thrive on the energy that we are all exuding.
and it's been good for me so far, especially since I let go of all the negativity that I was dwelling on.
Yeah. And I think we're all feeling that way. We're all feeling this real closeness and benefit of listening to other people's stories and interacting. So it's really great, and I'm feeling very positive about it. And there's probably about another month of preparation to go, and then we should have found a stable platform whereby then it will pretty well run on its own. And several people can be mediators. Hopefully we can have this facility whereby they can upload videos. If I tend to or want to go to a Vipassana somewhere, or just want to go to another part of Portugal and just get back really to walking in nature, for 5 hours each day, and meditating in the woods and all this sort of thing, because although it's beautiful around here, I am longing to get back into the woods and the mountains, as a different facet. And so I want to take time away from the internet.
So you're just going to go inland Portugal then?
Well, I think at the end of May, this is when I'm going to be heading right up north. It's much more mountainous up there. It's much more green, and there's beautiful national parks, which are really quite huge, with lakes and streams and quite reasonably dense forestation, even though it's not like Northern Europe. But there's got the beautiful old towns, and I can get a bed and breakfast, and it won't cost me any more than this place I'm staying here. I'll take my mountain bike, and I'll just be, taking a packed lunch and just getting out there in nature. I'm really looking forward to that.
That sounds beautiful.
And just doing lots of nature videos, whatever. You see, as soon as I get out in nature, all of a sudden I'm inspired. I'm getting very little inspiration these days because I'm spending too much time embroiled in numbers.
Oh, speaking of video, do you have any video of, you were talking about you had hard seas coming and destroying the beaches and everything? Do you have any video of that?
Yeah, I've put 3 up on the site very recently.
Okay, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, there's one of them.
Like, you can see all the waves coming.
Well, yeah, you can see the waves smashing against the rocks. You can see the waves, washing away the sand. You can see there's one where there's a surfer. He's trying to surf out there, and he's really, really struggling, and he's getting carried down the coast by the rip tide. And so yeah, I mean, I could make so many of those, but because I've made so many of them in the past, and I was saying to Chris, invariably they don't get any comments. And so I was thinking in the past that the reason why they don't get any comments, because people are so like hungry for the truth and the knowledge, or how's that going to make me grow? You know, people that are not evolved. But now we are the evolved ones, and I'm changing my pattern of thought now, because I'm dealing with a different force. And so if people don't comment, I'm suggesting that they don't comment, because really the natural world, what you feel and derive from it, is beyond words. Some people can just put, that's beautiful. Okay, that says it all. Thank you very much for that. Really enjoyed that. Okay, I know what you mean. Because there's nothing else to say about it. It's a feeling that you get from it. And if I can share a feeling with you, then that's I've achieved my objective. And so I absolutely love making my nature videos. And so I'm going to continue to do that. Only the reason why I haven't done that many these days is because I don't want to keep repeating myself, because I've walked up and down this beach thousands of times, and I've done all those videos, and so I want something new now for the viewer.
Well, that's going to be cool to see a new area, I guess. Yeah, because you're going to try to show us whatever you think is interesting, I would imagine.
Yeah, and so a new environment for me is going to give rise to new thoughts. And so I'm really looking forward to that aspect myself also, to start to grow a little bit more as well, by being alone more. And I would like to have a little bit of time where I could communicate with some people. And I can do this, you see, if I stay in a boarding house, because if I'm in a boarding house, then I'm going to be meeting travelers all the time. I'm going to be meeting pretty well like-minded people that love nature. And so, and people that have traveled around. And so that's always interesting. And so if I do that, if I stay in a boarding house up near this national park, then all the people that travel to the national park are staying in the boarding house, and they're there for a couple of days or whatever. And then I can engage with lots of people, and I can even ask them if they want to share their experience with me on video. And so I'll be, doing little interviews with random people. And I think that would be very exciting for the viewer.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you could find some new members that way.
Yes, that's very probable. It's a good point. People that just
they might be just so interested they want to join.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm really looking forward to doing. I know I've got my work cut out here. I have to stay here for the moment, because I've got all this to wrap up, and then. Like I say, beginning of June, when the weather's better, you see, because it's about, I don't know, say 600 miles. It may even be 800 miles north. That makes a lot of difference to the weather here. It's about 10 degrees colder up there. There's a lot of rain in the wintertime. And I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for the cold and the rain, I've been so used to the sunshine and the warmth. And so when I go up there in June, that's what I'll get. I'll get that level of ambient heat, because down here it gets too hot. It gets up to like 30, 35 degrees, which is really, really scorching when the sand is red hot, and it's impossible. And I don't want to be around then, and I don't want to be around when the whole place and the whole beach is absolutely strewn with tourists, Now I walk on the beach and I'm barely the only one there.
I don't blame you for not wanting to be around other people. It takes away from the beauty of the whole area.
Yeah.
Just, like you were describing the sand. You described how, and in one video, I think you were describing how the sand was untouched except for by you.
Yeah. Well, today, you see, it was really, really beautiful, because every single day is different in this world for the people that want to notice that. And particularly when you're on a coastal region, or whether you're in a natural environment like a wood or something, because throughout the seasons, and you see a subtle change every single day, and it's like watching your child grow. It's so beautiful when you notice all this activity of the nature and the natural way of things. But on the beach today, it was very windy. And so the wind was blowing in streams. It looked like a zebra's coat. All these sort of streams blowing together of very fine sand in comparison to the harder, firm sand, because the tide had been right in. And of course, it settled the sand down. But then when it started to dry out and the wind was howling over it, it started to break off the finer particles when they were dried out and carry them away. And you could see the sand just gliding and whirling around as the wind blew it from a certain direction. And it was amazing. And then when you look down at the sand, you see all the corrugations, all the different patterns, all the things that are revealed via the weather. And the beach, the sand itself changes every single day. And it's so marvelous to see that. It's like when I remember my daughter growing up. Every morning you'd look at her face and you'd see that she's changing. You know, as there's more facial expressions, as there's more mannerisms, getting a bit older and starting to do more. And it's so exciting, so beautiful. And so this is now how I look at the world. The world is my child, as well as my father.
I've been an observer of just about everything in my world most of my life that I can remember. In, like, say my parents took me to a family get together or whatever, and there would be a big conversation going on. I would just sit back and listen to everything that everybody had to say and just, take everything in. And that's just the way I've been in my entire life that I can remember, just very interested in everything around me.
Yeah.
And I remember even in school, just asking questions all the time. Just, when am I going to need this in my life? Or why are you teaching us this? When am I going to need this? And not getting a good answer.
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't have any answers. They've got no idea whatsoever. And so it's a beautiful disposition to have, the inquiring mind. And so maybe you can think of certain scenarios in your life that you'd like to depict or display. And this is, it goes for anybody. I've told so many stories, and okay, so I have some sort of forte for storytelling. That's one of the qualities that I've been blessed with, whereas other people, they have been blessed with qualities in another region. But if anybody feels that they are, reasonably articulate enough to convey a story of their lives, then I'm sure we're all going to be ears, and I am, because I really want to get to know my members, much more profoundly now. I want to know about their lives. I want to know about their humanism.
Yeah, I've definitely got stories to tell.
Yeah, and so there you go, members. Tell your stories. Bring your stories on. There must be hundreds and hundreds.
And I'd like to tell you.
Sorry?
And I wouldn't mind all of mine that I can remember. I mean, I'm not going to hold anything back.
Yeah. And that's it. You see, the reason why comedians are so popular is because, okay, they're funny and people like a laugh, but invariably they're funny because of the subjects that they talk about. They talk about things that most people don't want to engage with because they're too embarrassed, they're too ashamed, or this, that, and the other. You take, like, I don't know, Joe Rogan or Chris Rock or any real decent comedian, then the subjects that they delve into, life, really. Carlin? What's his first name? Thingy Carlin.
George Carlin.
George Carlin, yes, and then the other guy that's life's a ride. You're on a roller coaster ride. This, that, and the other. I forget his name. He's dead now, isn't he? What was his name?
It's like I'm not sure that I'm not good with names, but it's like they take the doom and gloom of life and make it twisted into a joke.
Yes, and lots of things that we steer clear away via our embarrassment to the stupid things we do, and the way our mind works and all this sort of thing. And so they reveal it, and because they're revealing what everybody knows is a facet of themselves, it's like ha 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 ha, because it's a release, because they would never dare do it themselves, and so for somebody else to do it, then they get a collective catharsis going on. I can see loads of bees around. You're the beekeeper. That's your new
Oh
name as
yeah.
far as I'm concerned.
There's a whole hive of bees about 10 feet away from me.
Right, and
Not even
so
joking. Want me to?
how is it that show us? Is it a natural habitat, or has it been created like a beehive?
I don't have a hive for them yet, but I definitely have enough bees to stock a hive. I've been
Right, and
seeing
so
queens.
how have you gathered those up? Just by feeding them sugar water?
Yeah, it started off with, I got a hummingbird feeder, and they started drinking off of that, and then it kept getting completely covered. So I just started putting out little pans with the sugar water, and every week or so there's almost twice as many bees.
And so,
Crazy.
what about just getting a little wooden box then, with little
Yeah, yeah.
slits in it, or whatever, and see if they will make a home there?
Yeah, it's just my next step.
And then you can extract your own honey too.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be excited about, because the desert honey, it's really tasty too. Because they
Yeah,
go out and they eat off all the cactus flowers, and
yeah.
there's
So
different kind of they just totally different from the honey that I'm used to eating. It has a
yeah,
different flavor.
yeah, I get that. Different varieties of pollens that are all gathered up. I mean,
Yeah.
you can make videos about that. You could go out into the desert there, and you could come upon various cacti, and you could see the bees gathering up the pollen from different plants and flowers, and that would be quite intriguing. And then you could depict what they're doing around that particular vicinity. Now they're gathering up the water, they're gathering up the sugar, so they're feeding on that. It's a curious thing, though, you see, because what they do is when they gather up this pollen, then it turns into an energy source for them. So why is it, do you think, that they want the sugar water as an energy source too? Or maybe is it just the water that they want?
I know they need some water, but what I see happen all day is the bees, they go to the feeding trough, or let's call it a feeding trough. They fill themselves up, and then they'll go somewhere and land for a few minutes, and it's like they stay there for about 5 minutes, and then when they take off, you see some water shoot out of them. So I think they're actually sifting the sugar out of the water as they sit there after they drink it, and then when they take off, they shoot some water out of them, and they just go back to the hive.
Curious.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Like you could see little droplets of water all over the roof of them doing it.
Right. Yes, interesting. And so little stories like that, what people do in their lives, because I think it might be fair to say that for a lot of the time, we might be tired of looking at the world with all its negativity and all of its mental bondage. You see, when you look at nature, it's emancipating. It completely frees you, because there's no connotations to anything except life. And so you look at life and you look at how things are living, and you can reflect upon your life and your living and a certain level of freedom. When we start concentrating on other things, that's when it starts to detract from the beauty of life, really. When we are so insistent on gathering knowledge, I mean, for why? We'll never know the answers. We'll never ever know how this thing works.
Well, I kept gathering knowledge, and I got to the point where I wasn't finding anything new. And I kept thinking to myself, well, this isn't going to affect me. This isn't going to affect me. And, I kept doing, my nature things, taking care of my plants, planting new plants, and the bees and the birds I take care of. But I still was affected by that negativity, and I had to let it go because
Yeah,
it's just not worth it. It's not worth being distracted by it. It's just a distraction from the life we should be living,
that's right.
especially do about, like you said, the serenity prayer. You just can't do anything about it. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. You need to know the things. It's not right to just not know anything. I mean, knowledge is important because without knowledge, a lot of things can hurt you. But with the knowledge, you can protect yourself, and you know how to get around things that are happening in this world. It doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Yeah, and it's a curious thing because you need to acquire this knowledge to acquire the wisdom. And then when you've got the wisdom, you know that the knowledge isn't really important, but you've already acquired it. And so it's easy to say when you've acquired the knowledge that it's not important. You see, when you acquire a level of wisdom, then you're very selective about what is important. And you can see that, for instance, when you're learning about politics, when you're learning about how the world works, and when you're learning about human psyche and all that sort of thing, it is important stuff to know to be able to navigate the way around the environment that we're born into. But by the time you are abreast of all that stuff, you know that that information itself isn't important because it's just machinations. Once you know about one machination, then you know about all machinations. And so the incessant viewing of Trump and politics and all this nonsense, it's always been the same, always will be. All you need to do is do a crash course on it, know what it's about, and then just walk away, because we'll never ever change any of that shit. It's far beyond the ability to be
I totally
changed
agree with you.
by people such as us, because we're too few. We're too far and few between, and the rest of humanity is just completely gone. They're completely under hypnosis, and all we'll ever will ever have happen to us is attacked. And you can see that this is what happened to me. Various people attacking me because I was pointing out certain realizations which they have never thought about and they could never see.
Well, I've seen through a lot of things for most of my life. I mean, I can remember when they taught me to vote in high school, and I went to vote, and I voted for Mickey Mouse, and that's the only time I've ever voted.
Right.
I've never voted again since then.
And lo and behold, who got inaugurated into the presidency? Mickey Mouse. Only he was calling himself something else at the time. Oh, what a joke.
Yeah, that's the only time I've ever voted. Yeah, I just don't pay any attention. My father, he's the total opposite. If you speak with my father about politics, you say something he doesn't agree with, and it doesn't matter who you are. It could be with his brother. He just won't talk to you anymore. He just cut right out of his life.
Yeah.
You don't agree on something that has to do with politics that's not even anything real.
Yeah, I know, it's mental. And this is one of the issues that Rachel was speaking about with her old man. Her old man's about 83 now, I think, and absolutely obsessed with Trump. Even though every time he watches Trump, his blood boils and he gets really, really angry. Rachel was saying to him, well, look, I mean, doesn't it make sense? If it makes you angry, then don't watch it. Oh, I've got to keep watching this man. There's an imbecile. There's this and that. Well, look what he's doing to you. He's destroying you inside. Can't you see that? But no, some people absolutely cannot see it. They cannot detach themselves from it. They cannot see it's all an illusion. It's all charades. Goodness me, the extent of people's psyche.
What Sarah was saying just justifies what you're saying, because she got to meet the man before he was a puppet, and she knows who he was, and that just it just shows how fake that the whole charade is, because she knew him when he was being real, and now she sees him being a puppet. It's got to be totally obvious for somebody who knows somebody personally, and then it changed and do a 180.
Yeah, well, of course, environment changes people as well, and power, and so he probably was a certain variety of person at a certain point in his life, but you see, when fame and stardom come about, and power and pressure, then we know that we're not the same person we were
Yep.
yesterday, and so it's perfectly reasonable to look at Trump now or anybody, even Obama. When Obama was a senator and he was campaigning for presidency, then he looked like a great guy. He looked like one of us. He looked so casual and cool and honest and all this. But as soon as he got into that position, he changed. He became cold as ice. He became a liar, and just like all the rest of them. And so it's like as soon as they walk in the door, they get a visit from somebody who is terrifying to them, and they are told they're going to do exactly what they're told to do. And that's how it is. They sell them soul.
You're describing stuff. You're
Sorry?
describing what mind. You're describing exactly what I envision in my mind of every presidency.
Yeah, you see, what happens is if you do you know the story of Faust when he meets Mephistopheles?
No.
Okay, so Goethe, the great German writer, he wrote this book called Faust, and this old guy, Faust, he was tired with his life and this, that, and the other. And one day he had an encounter with Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles was the devil. And Mephistopheles offered him 9 years of anything he wanted, all the fruits of the earth, young women, and this, that, and the other, in exchange for his soul. And so he did that. And then when the 9 years was over, realized how short it seemed to be, and you'd got to honor the contract. But you see, what's the difference between Faust meeting Mephistopheles and Obama or Trump meeting Mephistopheles? The only difference is in one facet is it's not 9 years, it's potentially 8, it's 4 or 8 years. Mephistopheles walks into the White House and goes, "Listen, boyo, this is how it's going to be. You will sell your soul to me, and in return, I will give you riches." And so they do it. And, one of the biggest issues about this whole political thing that people should get their heads around is that by the time any prime minister or president has left the premiership or the presidency, they are millionaires. For instance, one of our prime ministers, Blair, he amassed reputedly at one particular stage, it's probably vastly more, but as soon as he left his 8 years of the premiership, he was worth over 80 million. Where did he acquire that money from? On a wage of 200 grand, which reputedly was the wage for a prime minister at that time. And so these people, they should go to jail if they have any more money in the bank than is indicative of a 200 grand a year wage. There's no way you can amass 80 million unless you are being bent and you're being bribed.
Dude, that's really wrong, because I just watched a video, I believe it was day before yesterday, I believe day before yesterday, of one of my subscribers that had to take video because 2 police officers, this is in Canada now, 2 police officers just showed up at his house, plain clothed, and wanted to know where he was getting all the money he was living off of. This guy's retired, and they were starting to insinuate like he was some kind of in illegal activity or something. So he just pulled out his phone and started videoing it to YouTube, and they left.
Right.
So, I mean, if they're going to scrutinize us that much to where they want to see where every dollar's coming from, they should be looking at them too.
Yes, one of the first things that should be leveled at the politicians is that their financial situation should be absolutely made public prior to them being inaugurated, and after they have left the position, and that there should be auditing accountants that can check upon all the legitimacy of the expenses and where any remunerations came from. Because if these people are supposed to have the people's best interest and the country's best interest at heart, then that's what we want to see. We don't want to see them amassing millions in offshore bank accounts via dubious ways, like being paid from whatever other nation, most curious. You'll discover that the
I'm
presidents
sure
have been
I'm
paid by the
sure we
Russians and the
know.
Chinese and all sorts.
If you just be quiet and think to your mind, you can probably think of everything that they're getting money from. They're probably getting money for dumping stuff where they're not supposed to, and everything else, just to get around bills and laws. And you let me do this, and I'll do this for you. Let this little thing slide, and here's the money.
Absolutely. It's all the corporate interests and the lobbyists. They've got them in the bag. They get them in the bag from the day one because they're the ones that put them there. The lobbyists are the ones that fund their election costs. And so by the time they're elected and it's cost like 50 million to put them there, well, somebody wants some payback, don't they? And so that's what you've got. You've got a constant cycle of bribery, manipulation going on. Oh, so anyway, funny how we slipped back into the Matrix when we said we wouldn't.
Well, just a little bit of reality, I guess, there.
Yeah. So how long have we done on this video? There's no timer now.
I don't see a timer around here, but whenever I talk to you, it seems like I can't tell how much time's gone by. So
yeah, we just get engaged and it just slips by. But the only thing I can gauge it on is the kind of dryness of my throat, which comes about after about an hour and a half. Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe I'll come visit you when you go north. I need a vacation.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a beautiful part of the world and loads of... how are you at walking? I mean, is your back up for lots of nature walks?
I can walk. It's just that I have to deal with the inflammation at the end of the day. It's basically the problem.
Right.
The more I do, the more punishment I get for it at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so obviously that's a real issue because if you're in a natural environment like a natural park, which demands you walk through it, then if you...
Well, I just do it anyway.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you can do that without being bedridden on the second or third day, then you know what I'm saying? I've got to tell you, Mario, I'm pretty much like that now. If I, say, like walk for 3 hours in any given day now, the next day I don't want to be walking another 3 hours. I want a couple of days off at least before I start doing that again. Whereas 5 years ago, I could walk, 10, 15 miles every day and I barely feel it. But this is the situation, with the onset of age. And so I tend to cycle quite a bit and I'll be cycling a lot around this national park and just chaining up my cycle and walking at certain points,
Well, I think I was really lucky that I was very in tune with my body when I got in that accident. I was already into homeopathic things, and my body was really strong. I was 185 pounds solid muscle, and if I wasn't that strong of a person and physically and mentally and had to go through everything that I've gone through, I'm not sure if somebody would, if anybody could make it through all that.
Yeah.
And still be this strong.
Yeah, I get you. And so
I still like to push myself when I can. It's something I don't want to give up.
Yeah. And of course, this is the whole thing, you got to use it or lose it. And I discover more so every year now, if I have a week or two off from the gym, it's like I've never been to the gym before. You get back in there, things are sore, things are tight, whereas that never used to happen. It didn't make a slightest bit of difference. But now it takes me, say, like 6 months to build up a high level of fitness and strength and immunity to the weight training that I do. I'm still strong. I still lift a lot of weight. I'll still bench press over my body weight. And, and so I'm doing all right for my age, but it takes me a lot longer to build up to that. And within a couple of weeks, I can be set back again. Almost, it's like that 6 months has been wasted. That's the efficiency depleting in the recovery rate of the muscles.
I can definitely relate. When I helped that homeless guy recently, his name was Gilbert. He was in a wheelchair, so there was a lot of getting him up and down things, getting him in and out, getting him to the bathroom. And at one point, I was lifting him and the wheelchair up, and I was like, "How in the world am I even doing this?" And I said, he was just saying, "You're just really strong." And but I've been paying for it ever since.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's right. And so we just got to be careful. And of course, you see, we have to do it on a daily basis. We really do have to do it on an almost daily basis. Otherwise, we can't retain that level of immunity to it. And so I think we should wrap this video up here, Mario, because what's happening with people is when we're doing Skype conversations and they're going on for an hour and a half, 2 hours, this sort of thing, we're struggling to get the viewing on those because it takes up, almost one person's free time of an evening. And I don't know how many people are prepared really to do that. And it's quite intimidating to people when they look and think like, oh, I love these guys, but 2 hours. And so what I think I'd really like to do is I'd like to probably start doing 1 hour sessions only more often. Because 1 hour is much more palatable for people, less intimidating to click on. And what do you think about that?
I don't see a problem with that, but what I've noticed is I'll look at the time on a video before I watch it, and I'll say, "Oh my goodness, it's over 2 hours long." But then I start watching it, and I get drawn in, and I watch the whole thing. At worst, I might put it on a faster speed because I want to get through it faster. But I get drawn in, and I can't stop watching it. So
and so this is something that I'm going to reiterate again, because by putting the video on ×2, then you can still hear everything that's said in the video, only you can watch it in half the time. And so that's a beautiful facility. And by the time you've watched, a good dozen videos on ×2, it seems perfectly normal. And your mind, it gets up to speed, and you can absorb it very, very efficiently. And then when you go back to listening to people speaking at the normal rate, it seems like they're talking.
Oh my gosh, you're reading my mind, man. I was just gonna say that, because when I watch a video and then go back to regular speed, it just takes my brain maybe 30 seconds to adjust. It's just
you think something's wrong. You think, hang on, what's happened to this audio? It's very curious, isn't it?
I think it changes your reality of time, your perception of time.
Yeah, it definitely does something. And then when you listen to somebody speaking at normal rate, you think, no, I can do it faster. I can listen to you guys speaking at twice the rate, and I don't miss nothing. And so this is what I've been doing for a long time now. A long time.
I'm glad you brought that up in one of your videos, because I've been doing a lot since I heard you say it.
Yeah, and so this is why I think we need to reiterate it from time to time, just in case people forget, because if they, like you see, there's not many people that have the privilege of what we have, a retirement. They are working. And so when they look at a video over 2 hours long, it's like, oh man, I can't do that. And so maybe they don't click on it, you see, and I don't want that to happen. I don't want people to feel as if they can't be privy to our conversations because they don't have the time. And so,
well, the only problem I see is on the site you have now, I don't think you can stop a video. It seems like you can't go back to a video and start it where you left off. Like you got to watch it from the beginning again.
Yeah,
that's the only problem.
I mean,
that's the only problem that I see.
This is something that Carol Corrivan, she says, and there's too many problems on this site, and I really don't think it's worthwhile maintaining. And so, therefore, if we have a multimedia on Steemit, and there's a forum there and it's ready to go, I just think that's the way to go, seriously. Because the amount of hours Guy and I have put into this nightmare, which it's become, and it's little more functioning now than it was before. And as soon as he fixes something, then something else goes freaking wrong, and it's just illogical. And so I think it's a blessing in disguise that he doesn't want to continue with it, because it's been absorbing too much of his time and energy. And so it's an excuse for me to emancipate myself from it as well. And so whatever's going to happen, we're going to end up with something better ultimately, because collectively we'll just keep looking until we find something which is absolutely suitable to us.
Well, we can keep communicating in the meantime.
Yeah. And so on that note then, my old mate, have a great day in the glorious sunshine.
Thanks, man. You have a great evening.
Yeah, it's 8:30 now. I'm going to have a cup of tea and a sandwich and settle down to watching some sort of Duncan Trussell comedy sort of interview or something, and just while the night away.
Sounds good.
So talk to you as and when, mate.
Okay.
Cheers, Mario.
Take care, man. Ciao.